Now, sponsoring, a lot of people think that sponsoring is a sales transaction process, that it ends at the sign up. Once you get that person signed up and on your team, you're off to the next person. And in network marketing, this is a relationship business. This is not just some type of sales deal where you sell the package and move along and the person gets their steak knives and everybody goes along their merry little way. In network marketing, in building those relationships, this process just begins at the sign up. Really, the process begins when you first make contact with a person. But at the sign up, that's when really the beginning of the relationship process starts. Now, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you a blueprint that's going to completely turn your business around. It's going to make your business do a complete 180. Okay? Now, if you're serious about building a big team, and when I say a big team, I'm not talking about 50, 100, 200, 300 people. I'm talking about a team in the thousands and tens of thousands of reps. What you're going to need to do is follow this blueprint to the letter. Now, and when I say blueprint, most of this blueprint is not going to be technique stuff. So if you're looking for the next slick marketing technique, if you're looking for the next slick thing to say or buzzword to use or technology to use in your business, this is not that presentation. Okay, this blueprint that we're going to give you today is really going to be in two phases. Okay, phase one is going to be what we call the 120-day honeymoon period, or the puppy phase. Okay, and in phase two, that's going to be after 120 days when the honeymoon's over and that puppy's a little bit older. Okay, so in phase one, here's the premise that we start with. You have to be in and stay in the active phase of your business. And what the active phase of your business is prospecting and recruiting. You've probably heard this before. Your upline's probably told you this. You've probably been on another training with someone else in the industry that's told you that you have to stay in the active phase of your business, prospecting and recruiting. But have they told you why? Yes, you always need to be sponsoring and bringing on new people, but why? Well, I'm going to tell you the reason why. The reason why goes back to a few slides ago when we said you will attract to you what you are, not what you want. If you're not an active recruiter, when your new people come onto your team, they're not going to be active recruiters either, because they're not going to do what you train them to do. You can show someone all the information in the world on why they should be sponsoring new reps every week, every month, whatever. But if you're not doing it, they're going to follow your example. See, what I learned a long time ago in this industry is that your people will duplicate about half of what you do. Okay, so if you average things out, if you're sponsoring 10 people a month, on average, when you put everybody on your team together, they'll sponsor about 5 people a month. Well, how many people a month are they going to sponsor if you're sponsoring 0? Right. I think you're starting to get the point, okay? Most network marketers leave this phase too soon. They try to do too much with too few people. And that's one of the reasons that a lot of people's businesses grind down to a halt and they get frustrated. They can't figure out why their business won't grow. Well, the problem comes back right back to them and right back to you. Now, when you sponsor a new rep, okay, for the first 120 days of their business, you have to be the physical example of how to build the business, okay? Now, here's something that you should know. If you're not a good example, by default, that makes you a bad example. Just like an apprenticeship, they're going to first learn by watching you do it, not by you telling them. People don't need you to stop what you're doing to put together training programs for them. People don't need you to stop what you're doing to call them every 10 minutes to figure out what they're doing. in building their business. What they need you to do is to get in there in the trenches with them and physically show them the process of sponsoring people. Physically show them this process of getting new people started right. That's where they learn. That's the training that they need. It's an active training, not a passive training, if that makes sense. So, what am I talking about when I talk about get in the trenches with them? You need to physically help them build their list, not send them an email that they need to build a list, not call them and tell them that they need to build a list. You need to physically sit down with them, help them understand why they need to build that list, let them understand who needs to be on that list, and physically ask them the question, who do you know who is ... You need to work with them hand in hand, just like a baby. You wouldn't hand a baby a steak when it's time to feed them and say, okay, baby, go to work, and hand them a knife and fork and tell them to get to it. No, when you have a baby, you take that baby and you feed that baby as long as it takes until that baby starts to grow, and then that baby will start to put their hands on the bottle and hold the bottle themselves, and then eventually that baby will get old enough to start to eat solid food. Okay? When you get a brand new person who gets started on your business team, they're just like that baby. Most people who get started in this industry have never owned their own business. They don't know what it takes to get started and to be successful in the industry. And just telling them isn't enough. You have to be in there and physically show them. You need to help them make their first phone calls to the people who are on that list. You need to physically set time out of your schedule to get on the phone with that person and help them make those initial phone calls. You might even need to make those phone calls for them to start. You need to help them do their first few meetings. How many is their first few? As many as it takes until they take the ball from you during that first 120 days and start to get it and start to do their own presentations. See, here's the thing that most people do in business, and especially in our type of business. They try to avoid pain at all costs. Here's what a leader does. A leader jumps headfirst into pain, because they know that by making those mistakes, that's what's going to speed up their growth. By failing forward, by doing their own presentations and messing it up, by making those phone calls and messing it up, that's how they learn how not to do it wrong. But you have to be there to guide them and give them that push and give them that incentive to show them what it is that they need to do. You need to help them do their first follow-up meetings and follow-up calls. You need to be available to do three-way calls with them when they need you. You need to have third-party tools on hand. If you're building a local team, you need to have third-party tools on hand for both your new rep and for their prospects. Here's the thing. It comes back to this. You're building your business. Your new rep is a part of your business. So expecting them to treat your business with the same amount of seriousness that they would treat their own in the beginning, again, they're just a baby. They're just a puppy in this thing. You need to show them the physical example of what they need to do in order to make it work. Okay? In their first 120 days, the only way your new rep can do anything wrong is if they just refuse to build a list of names. That's the only thing that they can do where mentally it's okay, where you kind of, I don't want to say check out on them, but it's okay to focus your physical time and efforts and energies with other new people. And I'll get into that a little bit more too, but other than that, in that first 120 days, you treat them just like you would treat a newborn baby, with the same love and care and attention that you would give to a newborn. You need to do this in as many of your personally sponsored teams as you need to in order to hit your goals in your time frame. Again, this is your business. You got started in business to do things for your family, to do things for yourself, to do things for your church or religious organization. You got in for purely selfish reasons. in order for you to be able to accomplish your goals in your selfish time frame, you need to be able to work with more than one group. So I'm not saying you sponsor one person and like a chicken you sit on your egg until they hatch. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that you need to do this process in as many of your personally sponsored teams as you need to hit your goals. So what you have to do is you have to figure out, okay, what your goals are. You have to figure out what your time frame is to hit those goals. And then working backwards, you have to figure out, based on your company's compensation plan, what you need to do to hit those goals. And then work towards that. Here's the key to it all, guys. This is a relationship business. And I said that before, and I'm going to continue to say it throughout this presentation, because that is the root of this business. You build strong relationships with your downline, not by knowing every single thing about your business, not by knowing every single fact and figure about your product or service that your company offers. You build strong relationships with your downline by getting your hands dirty and by serving them and by helping them grow a business. There are times in this business where you will do things for people in your downline that people in their families are not willing to do to help them. There will be times in your business when you have to go do a meeting 300 miles away from your house because someone in your downline has a group that's growing like wildfire there. There'll be times when you have to fly across the country to do a presentation because someone in your downline has a group that's growing and they need you there. Guys, these are things that people that are related to your new reps won't do for them. You're building a relationship. You're showing that new person that you're committed to that partnership just like they are. Okay? And the stronger the relationships that you build with the people in the downline, the less likely those reps are to quit. Quite honestly, you want to build such an emotional bond and attachment with your downline group that they understand and they trust that you truly have their best interests at heart and that you're truly there to work with them and serve them. I'm not going to turn this into a religious presentation, but if you look at the story of Jesus and look at the way that he interacted with his disciples, he was the greatest servant among them. He served his disciples greater than they ever served him. And if you look at the growth of Christianity over history, you can see that initial service to those 12 disciples led to the growth of one of the largest religious organizations in the world. So if it works there, if it works in other areas of your life, if it works in other areas of business and religion and all other types of organizations, why would it not work here in a business that is a relationship business? It just makes sense.